Okay. So if you remember, in the green booklet, at the back of it, there are 4 sample texts. Now these are papers that were submitted for this workshop. And I've taken away the author's name. I've also taken away the title, and I've taken away the key words. So the exercise was, and I gave you the introduction and the concluding paragraphs. So your exercise was to come up with a title and come up with key words. Now, part of what's behind this is that in a well-written paper, you should be able to come up with a title only from the introduction. So if there's the information in the introduction doesn't allow you to create a title, then that introduction or the abstract need to be fixed up. So part of what you're doing is analyzing whether the information in the abstract and the introduction and the conclusion is sufficient, is adequate to do this. Okay, so where's group A? Okay, so have you got a title?
Yes.
Okay, well what we're going to do, you give me the title and I'll type it in. So what is your title?
I read.
Huh? Just tell me what it, I'll type it, so you just tell me what it is.
Ali Sastro Hamidoyo. Here. Titik dua, how we say? Titik dua, how we say? Column. Okay. The hidden figure behind Asia-Africa Bandung Conference, 1955.
Hang on. This is supposed to be filling the screen. Okay, there we go. Conference.
1925. 1955.
Yeah.
Actually, we have 2.
Okay, so the other one?
Ali Sastro Amidoyo. Column. The hidden figure behind transnational Asia-Africa collaboration. Cooperation, yes. Sorry. Collaboration.
Huh?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. Okay. And what keywords?
Keywords. Ali Sastro Amidoyo.
Yeah.
Bandung Conference. Collaboration. Afro-Asian collaboration.
Afro-Asian. Okay. That's all.
Yes.
Okay. I should have told you can have up to 10, but it doesn't matter. It just because it. Okay, so we have 2 titles, and we have some key words. So the question for the rest of you, obviously some of you are in different fields, but let's ignore that. But just looking at those titles, would you find this appealing? Does it suggest an article that you might want to read? Well, maybe the first thing is, what does it tell you it's about? That's pretty obvious. So what does it tell you this article is trying to do? What is the central issue, central point in that artitle?
To say the roles of Ali Sastro in the Asia African Bandung Conference.
Yeah, so the role of Ali Sastro and it tells you one other thing. It talks about the hidden figure, right? So, and that's in both of those titles. So that also tells you that this probably is going to give you something new. Because if everybody knew all this, it wouldn't be hidden, right? Yeah. And then, of course, we've got two issues. The conference itself, and then the broader question of collaboration. Okay, so here is what the author of that paper suggested. And it's not too much different from what you came up with, right? Yeah, he's putting Ali Sastro in the subtitle rather than in the main title. Now, the keywords, again, we have Ali Sastro Bandung Conference, Asia-Africa collaboration, cooperation. He's added Cold War and decolonization. Now, what do you think of, okay, take the words that the original author used. So what's your view of that set of words? Are they useful? First one, Ali Sastro is that a useful thing as a key word? I'd say yes. Yes. Bandung Conference. Okay, what you don't want is the word the. I mean, not great harm, but what you're searching for is the name of the conference. So the word the is not of any use there. Asian and African cooperation, I suppose, because it's in the context of that. But what about Cold War and decolonization? Are those useful words?
I think those words are too broad.
I think so too. They're very broad. So if you do a search on Cold War, you're going to get hundreds, maybe thousands of articles. So Cold War is not going to take you to this piece. Now it's not totally useless, but it's not going to be particularly helpful in getting someone here. Decolonization, certainly the same problem. On the other hand, the three words here, I think they're all okay, but you probably would want more. So if you had the full text, you might go in and try to find a few more key words that could be helpful in bringing people to this text. Okay, so you have the abstract. And this abstract is 143 words long. What did you think about the abstract? Is it well written, well done? In terms of focusing attention on what the paper is about.
I think I don't see the research questions.
Okay. I think in general this isn't too bad, but I think the thing that's missing there is the answer to a research question. Because it tells you the context we're talking about. So it's not terrible, but it could be better with the answer to a research question included in the abstract. The length is okay. The length is just about right. So it's pretty good, but I mean, it could be better, I guess, what we're saying here. Okay, we're not too long on time here, so I'm going to hurry this along a bit. Okay, so Group B, what is your title? Where's Group B? Okay.
Yeah, the first title is co-working space. Co-working space.
Co-working space.
As in new social space. For
Yeah.
young people in Jakarta. Young people in
You want it with a Y or a J?
Y.
Okay, do you have another one?
Option is
Co-working space,
Yeah.
column, and new trend for social space of young people in Jakarta.
Okay. And what keywords do you have?
Co-working space,
Okay.
social space, social interaction, lifestyle, young people.
Okay, so what do the rest of you think of the titles? Okay, first of all, the first two words. Are you familiar with co-working space? I mean, have you heard of this in any context? You have. Okay, most of you have not. Okay, so you look at that title, and you don't know what that means, but you understand the two words. You can understand working, co-working you can understand, and space. So you have some idea of what it is from those words, but you don't exactly know what it is. But it's not like a technical term that you don't understand. You can take those words and you some image that you carry into the article. It may be wrong, but at least you start with an idea what this might be about. And obviously, co-working means working together, right? So that you have and a space where people work together. So that part is not bad. Then a new trend. Well, does that interest you? I suppose people are interested in new trends. And social space. Now we've got the word space in that title twice, which may not be ideal. What do you understand about social space? I mean, what other kinds of spaces are there?
it's not British.
Huh?
I think it's not clear definition. So
Not clear. Okay.
Space for social interactions among the community.
Space for social interaction within the community, among members of the community. Okay.
Is it the opposite of personal space?
Is it what?
Is it the opposite of personal space?
I don't know. You're just looking at the word and trying to understand what it is. Yeah. Okay, so social space versus personal space. I think that's probably about right.
Yeah.
And so if you think of co-working space, that suggests more than one person in it, right? So that would not be personal space. So I think you're right. You're exactly right about this. That it's contrasted with co-working space, and yet here it seems to be the same thing, right? The colon suggests that social space and co-working space. Sorry, no, I started to say that. A co-working space is a social space. That is a space that's shared by people, right? And for young people, okay, that pinpoints the group. And Jakarta pinpoints the place. So it does the right sort of thing. The question really is whether it's an interesting enough title to attract people to read it. And it's not bad, again. It's not brilliant, but it's not bad. Okay, let's see what the original one was then. Now, what do you like that title better? Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Only problem with that title is it only works for people who understand. Yeah. But I mean, the rest of it is about the same as what you came up with. So I would say that part of the conclusion here is the abstract of the text that you had did allow you to create a title. So from that point, that text was okay. Okay, now the keywords that are there, both of you have social space. This one has third place, hangout place, and spatial complexity. And over here, we've got social interaction, lifestyle, young people. What do you all think of those keywords?
One component is missing is young people.
Well, even with that one, how many articles in the world are there about young people? Co-working space, I think that one's pretty good because that will take you to a fairly limited number of things. Social space, social interaction, I think are too broad. Lifestyle, young people, all they're not precise enough to get people drawn to this article. Bearing in mind, the search engines, Google and so on, are out there. They have these crawling things, programs that go around and screen things, and so they're going to pick these words up. And then the hope is, if you type in co-working space, then you'll be taken to a group of articles that includes this one, and there won't be 70,000 articles. If you type in social interaction, I pretty well guarantee you you're going to be in the hundreds of thousands. So it's not going to be useful. Hangout place. That's interesting, because I doubt that too many people use that term. So that might actually be useful. The third place, I don't know. Sorry?
Third place, I think it should be omitted. Third place. What do you think?
What's the one, the first and the second? Maybe home and maybe work.
Well,
place.
I don't know.
And the third is angkringan or co-working.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea of third place is interesting, but I don't know that it works as a keyword.
Is third place similar with like the third space?
No, as a concept, it's okay. And if it's even in the title or in the abstract, but I don't think you're going to get very far putting it as a keyword. Yeah.
I will suggest another word that is related with the change. Like here, we just mentioned revolution or transformations. So why transformation, for example, doesn't appear in keywords?
Well, I think again, the problem is if you do a search on transformation, it'll take you to too many things. So the problem with keywords is to find keywords that are not going to give you, I mean, you've all done this. You do a search on Google and you look up at the top and it gives some ridiculous number. And nobody ever really goes beyond about the first 10 or 20 hits. So you need something that will draw people to your article.
So now our consideration is about the search engine, no longer about the idea that we discussed.
It's both. You want what's going to happen? You do a search. Let's just take co-working space. Okay, so let's say that brings you to this article. Okay, so the next question is, are you going to read it? Okay, so at that point, you will look at the keywords, and you will look at the title, and you'll look at the abstract. And then you're going to decide, do I want to invest, I don't know how fast you read, but it would take me probably an hour or 2 hours to read that article and really understand it, think about it. Well, there are lots of articles waiting for me to read. So I have to decide, am I going to spend 2 hours reading this one? And I'll make that decision based on the keywords, the title, the abstract. Now, some of those keywords might be all right from that point of view. So social space, for example. Okay, if I do a search on social space, that's useless. But if I do a search on co-working space, then I see social space, that might help attract me to it. So the keywords serve two purposes. They will bring you to the article, and then you make a decision partly based on that. Yeah?
Probably Yogyakarta, because perhaps when people are searching Yogyakarta, they will find there is a transformations in Yogyakarta from the agreement to co-working space.
Yes, and as you see in the abstract, this is specifically about Yogyakarta. Yes, precisely. Okay, so this is 152 words. That, again, is reasonable in terms of the number of words. The question then is whether there is a research question or the answer to a research question in that abstract. And okay, when you looked at the abstract, how did you feel about it? Was it doing what you thought it should do? Group B.
The abstract has already mentioned about the public research, and also I think it's quite clear to give a clue to the reader what we will read in this paper, and also it also mentioned about the result. But I think the missing in this abstract is the significance of the research is not there yet.
There's a certain amount of repetition in there that it doesn't help.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's not very, it's not concise. It's okay, we talked about the emergence of new social spaces, co-working space, okay. Then this paper provides an analysis of new social spaces. Well, you don't need to say it's going to talk about the emergence and then it's going to talk about the analysis. You can say that in one sentence. So it would need reworking. And again, what research question is in there? Well, the only question I can see there is what's going on. But the question I'd like to see it explore in the paper is why is this going on? And I don't really feel like, it just says, it shows that over time there's a change in spatial complexity. Okay, but why is that change happening? And that's where it gets much more interesting. And it's not there. I don't think it's really in that paper either, so. Okay, Group C. Let's see what you have. Group C, where are you? Give me a title, please.
Okay, the first alternative. The new old literature.
The new
Old or literature. Literature.
Not catch it. I'm not hearing him clearly enough. Yes.
Literature. Literature.
Literature.
Literature.
The new order literature.
The new old.
Order.
Old. Old.
OLD.
OLD.
Like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Column.
Yep.
Reader shifting reception. Reader shifting reception.
Leadership.
Shifting.
Sifting.
Shifting.
Shifting.
Readers.
Readers. Readers shifting perceptions.
Readers. Yeah. To the new orders written literature.
To the new orders written literature. Right. Second choice.
Other alternative shifting period, shifting values,
Shifting
period,
period.
yeah, shifting values of shifting period, comma, shifting values,
Shifting period, comma, shifting values. Okay.
color, the changing interpretation of New Order literature in the Reformation era in Indonesia.
In Indonesia.
Yeah.
Okay. And keywords.
The order,
New generation.
New generation.
Yeah. Shifting value or shifting perception. Reformation era. Indonesian literature, perhaps.
Okay. Okay. So, what do all of you think about the two titles there?
Title number 1 is, to me, confusing because there are two adjectives which are, contradictory.
You mean new old?
New, yes.
Well, you can see that two ways. New old might attract people. What are they talking about? I don't understand it, but maybe I want to find out. But your impulse is just say, yeah, I don't want to deal with that. Okay.
And then perhaps the shifting period. Usually we say transitional period, shifting period. Shifting. I can understand shifting values, but not shifting periods. Maybe we can say transitional period.
Yeah. Was it shifting period or periods with an S on it? The second one, is it shifting periods with an S? Here. Is that supposed to have an S on it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I suppose with the S you understand, okay, if the period changes, the values change. To do the implication, right? Well, okay, let's kind of do a little bit of quick analysis. The first title, we have the word literature twice. And there is oral literature, but you're talking about readers. So I don't think you need the word written. Because written is going to imply readers. So first off, I think we get rid of that word. Secondly, you can use new order as an adjective, so you can make this new order literature. And then it's a bit tighter. So the first one, you have this kind of interesting contrast between, they say new old. Okay, so maybe that's appealing, maybe not. The second one, you also have a contrast. Shifting periods, shifting values. And you could vary that, you say new periods, new values. There are different ways that you could do that. If shifting is a problem. Okay, changing interpretation. I think if you have shifting values, shifting periods, it already implies there's a changing interpretation. So supposing, just to try it out, we just get rid of that. New order literature in the Reformation era. But Okay, what is the Reformation era? When does that, is it still going on? Yeah. What's the difference between the Reformation era and the New Order? Yeah. So basically, it's pretty much the same thing. So you could change it around. Reformation era literature in the Reformation era, which gets to be a little bit funny. Okay, let's see what the original one was. Okay, the author had said New Order period literature in the Reformation era, finding new meanings in old words. Now, I like that subtitle because I mean, there's a kind of an idea there that is interesting. But there's something else that goes into a good title, and that is this person going to be interesting are they going to approach things in an interesting way? And actually, your titles, New Old, shifting, period shifting, and then this one as well. It's something about this one that everybody's trying to come up with an interesting approach to it, an interesting title. So I think this subtitle is quite good. Now, New Order period literature in the Reformation era. Okay, we still have the problem, is that saying the same thing twice? The question would be, how else could you say it? And I'm not entirely sure you can, but the deeper question, I suppose here, New Order period is a time period, okay? And likewise, Reformation era is. But you can see, you can think of New Order period literature in a different way. That is, it's a certain type of literature that emerges in the New Order period. So you can see that not as a time frame, but as a description of a certain kind of literature. And in that case, I think it doesn't repeat itself unnecessarily. I think it actually is saying something different. This is a particular type of literature that is found in the Reformation era. And you would assume that there's other sorts of literature that also appear in the Reformation era. So there could be classics that are being reprinted, all sorts of other sorts. So that one, I think, actually does work pretty well. But I'm telling you, you should be telling me. Let's look at the keywords. Okay. Both of you, both the author and the group, come up with New Order, Reformation era. Then we have a bunch of terms like Kunto Wijoyo, Seno Kumira, is that Aji or Aji as well as Aji Dharma? Yeah. Cerita Pendek, Cerpen Koran. Now there's a problem there because nobody outside of Indonesia is going to understand those words. On the other hand, the people wanting to read this, probably a lot of them will be in Indonesia, so I wouldn't rule them all out. But if you want to have a good impact factor, you need to have as wide a readership as possible. So you can have more words, so there's no harm in having some of those words, so long as you have words that are also going to appeal to people who don't know what those words mean. So, what about New Order, Reformation era? New Order, I think, is okay. Reformation era, if you're talking about Indonesia and then you bring up the term Reformation era, okay. But if you're just throwing Reformation era out, you're going to look at the Protestant Reformation in Europe. So it doesn't really work too well as a key word. Yeah?
This Reformation era could be equivalent with post-Suharto regime.
Yeah, then it points direction at Indonesia then. Yeah.
In Indonesia.
Yeah. The problem with the ones that you came up with, you have the word Indonesian there, right? The original ones, you have it again, Indonesian short stories. Yeah, so Indonesian is in both cases. Yeah. Cerpen Koran. Now, the thing is, if you put that in English, it's not going to be very precise. But in Indonesian, I think it works okay. Okay, what about the abstract? This one is 114 words. What did you feel? How did you feel about the abstract? Okay, well, we're going to run out of time, so let me just make a quick comment. I think it's the same thing that we said about the other ones, that the description, it does help you understand what is in the article. There's still a need for an answer to a research question there, and it's not really there. It's not a terrible one again, but it just could be improved. Okay, so let's go to our last group. So group D, where are you? So what's your title, or titles?
Our first option is the awareness of women's emancipation, on development planning, for forest and water seed management, forest and water set, water set,
S-H-E-D.
Watersheds.
Yeah. Management.
Watershed, oh, forest and watershed management. Yeah, okay. Right. You have another one?
Yeah, so that as well, we might focus a second title, gender imbalance on the forest and watershed management.
Gender imbalance
on the forest and watershed management. In Lampung, in West Lampung.
West Lampung, yeah. Okay. And your keywords?
Keywords: emancipation,
Yeah.
forest planning development,
Forest planning development.
watershed management, gender,
Yeah, I think that is all.
Okay. Okay, so what do you all think of the titles? Any reaction to the title? First title. Well, the wording doesn't quite work on that because you need to be saying something about the impact rather than the awareness. But if you try to say the impact of awareness, that also doesn't really. It gets very complicated and doesn't really make sense, so that doesn't work. The impact of women's emancipation on development planning makes sense. I don't know if it really works as a title, but let's just change it to that anyway. The impact Now, does that, what do you think of that as a title?
If I read the first title, it looked like a project report.
Project report rather than an article?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe. What about the second title? Let's make this, I mean, the same problem here. It should be the impact of, or, but why don't we just change this to gender imbalance and forest and watershed management in West Lampung. Does that work?
I'm not sure about the imbalance as a concept because usually I know it is gender inequality.
Okay, gender imbalance has to be within some context. And so yeah, gender inequality, do you want to try that? Now, I think gender imbalance probably is okay, but it can't just stand on its own. It has to be, well, let's change this to in forest and watershed management. Now, the management is the people who are running the show, right? So if we say that gender imbalance, it means that there could be more women than men, but it's probably more men than women in the planning, in the management. So I think that actually seems all right. Now what about in West Lampung? I mean, in Indonesia that works because people know where Lampung is. Outside of Indonesia, it probably doesn't work so well.
Lampung, Indonesia.
So if we add Indonesia,
Yeah.
that would be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's going to use this, so it's just we're just understanding what works at the title.
People don't know about Indonesia, but they know about
Okay, so the original title: Gender Power Relations in Development Planning for Forest and Watershed Management in Lampung, Indonesia. So what do you think of the original title? It is a very good title, actually. Yeah. And the key words: development planning, forest and watershed management. Now, I think that one, you probably need to use the word management twice. Forest management, watershed management. Gender role, I think, has to be plural. Gender roles. Government policies is probably too general. Power relations. I mean, all these are interesting words. And so if you come to this article and you look at that, I think you're attracted to it. Now, the abstract is 192 words long. And just take a quick look here. We have the word community-based there, and we have community-based down here. We have the word community again, which suggests that it probably needs to be tighter. So I think with this one, what you would want to aim for is get it down to 150 words, no more than that. And up here, it's explaining in this research and talks about the project. I don't think you need to explain the project in the abstract. You can just say there was a project. You don't have to give any details about it in the abstract. And the fact that it's in the Gadjah River, again, this can be talked about later. So there's detail in there that's not needed in the abstract. And once again, there's a problem of a research question or the answer to a research question. I mean, this article generally is really good, but it, again, I think would be better if there was a clearer answer to a research question here and in the introductory material. Okay, but just to sum up, it seems to me that all four of these examples, the introductory material and the concluding material, was sufficient for you to come up with a title that was reasonable and the key words. And the lesson I want you to take away here is, first, that these things are important. Second, you need to look at your material just the way you did this. Look at your abstract, your introduction, your conclusion, and ask yourself, if somebody just reads that, what will they know about what I'm doing? And the reason you're doing that is that as an editor, that may be all I'm going to read to decide whether I want to do anything more. Because the first decision is, do I want to spend any more time on this? And if you haven't gotten me interested with your title, your abstract, your keywords, your opening paragraph, I may decide you're not going to get me interested later. And you want me interested if you're going to get published, because if I'm not interested, it doesn't get refereed, it doesn't get published. Okay, well, I'm sorry to rush it, but we're 5 minutes over time, and we're supposed to be having another session now. But thank you very much for taking part in this. Okay, then now we're supposed to have an a discussion, an evaluation of the workshop. So Siddharth, I think, is outside. He said he would be, so I'll bring him in to run the next section.